and they're probably not going to end up being full-time house parents. And so I need some more house parents to do that. One of the things I'm thrilled about is one of my sets of relief house parents are amazing with our work groups. And if I can get some more relief house parents in, I would like to have them do work groups year-round, like maybe one group every other week. Because a lot of the staff that we do get, house parents and such, have been out on a work group from a supporting church somewhere, and not a supporting church, that have come out and visited and love what we're doing there. And so to help with that, I would like to see us get that rolling, but I'm going to need house parents first. And then comes our work groups. Our work group people are amazing people, and we have enough people that want to come that we've even had to ask some churches to come every other year as far as having an organized work group. And those usually look like a group of 10 to 12 people with a maximum of 15, and we'll put 3 groups a week in from about the 12th of June through the end of July, and they will come, so it's about 30 to 45 people a week who will come and help us with firewood or hay bales or working in the garden. We've had some ladies do sewing and some do cooking. We try to find something that is appropriate for whatever the physical ability is of whoever comes. But you guys, when you come out on a work group, you're an encouragement to the kids, and they love to sit down with you at lunch after working around you there at 3-inch somewhere and get a chance to talk to you, and it just encourages them to know that people believe in them and what's going on. And then also it encourages the staff. And I have yet to hear of almost anybody from a work group go home and say, I wasn't blessed by that. We've even had baptisms of our work group people who come out, and it made an impression on them, and wherever they were in their spiritual walk, they said, I need to make a decision for the Lord. So it's been a huge blessing that way. We do about 150 cords of firewood. We do cut that all off the back of the ranch as we thin through part of the timber every year. But we're just starting to get back to some of the places that they were thinning in the late 80s, excuse me. So we do have enough timber that it should be sustainable for the foreseeable future. This is a group from Lincoln Christian University. They bring a group out every spring on their spring break, and they kind of do whatever we have them do. And a lot of times they end up cutting some meat for us for our summer groups, and they just love to get in there and do that and help us out however they can. Each of our houses has 3 rooms in the basement that looks about like this. It'll have 2 to 4 beds in it, and then there's a couple of bathrooms in each basement. So again, we always have a place to stay, and this is where our work group people come and stay as well. You don't need to bring your own bedding or towels. That's all provided. We don't charge anything for our work groups who come. You just have to get there. And if you'll fly into Missoula, we'll pick you up as well, Saturday to Saturday. And what that looks like is if you get in time for a meal on Saturday, then we'll feed you and you can get some rest. On Sunday, you get up, breakfast, go to church with, there in St. Ignatius. It's about 5 miles from the ranch by road. And then after that, go back for lunch, and then there's a couple options. A hike up to the falls in the mountains, right up there actually, or a drive over the National Bison Range. Yeah, I don't have a picture of that. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we feed you and we give you a lot of work to do. On Thursday, you need a break, and so we drive up to Glacier National Park and take you with some vans as far as we can in. And if you want to see all of Glacier, I would say don't come until after the first part of July, because you never know how much snow they're still carving out at that time. Not that it's still snowing necessarily, just that there's that much they have to remove before they can open Glacier. If you want to be on our mailing list, we used to do it all by hand. I've got a sign-up sheet right here. This really works sitting right next to the display. I like this. If you want to be on that, every 3 months we send out a brochure, a letter, a picture you can put on your fridge to remember to pray for us and the kids, and a little green envelope in case you want to give. And we just started having our printer do all of that because we found out we can save about $2,500 every year by having them do it instead of having us do it. So I generally apologize to whoever the group is I'm talking to, because for years we've tried to hand stamp those envelopes so you'd have a very personal touch, but hopefully people understand us trying to be good stewards of what God has given us. There's Granddad and Grandma. They grew up on the Indiana-Illinois line in Hudsonville, Illinois. And
Been there many, many times.
yes. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. They went to Lincoln Christian University, and it's just the first few years that it was open, and then didn't graduate. Granddad is a very, I gotta go be doing something kind of person. So they went out to Washington State to work with the Yakima Indian Reservation there, and then moved to the Flathead Indian Reservation where we are now located in the early 50s. And they worked there for 20-some years with the native people and the other people around, started the church in St. Ignatius, and then the local church camp 60 miles north of us, and then later in the 70s, Pinehaven. And it was an amazing, there was a lady in the church who donated 80 acres and helped to get that started, and the guy whose ranch we ended up getting to buy, he basically traded us the 80 acres, or the cost of the 80 acres, for the center of this ranch, and then he let supporters buy the rest of the acreage, 1,120 acres, at $100 an acre. And we haven't been in debt since that was paid off. And just a huge blessing today to come up with that kind of, that's 1.5 miles by 1.25 miles. To come up with that kind of ground, you'd have to have somebody donate it, or, yeah. Yes. Amazing.
Can I tell a little story that'll be a lead in, maybe?
No.
You can tell us.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So Bob, one of the things about Bob Larsson is he is hands down the best guy I have ever met about getting people to just open up their checkbooks, give stuff. You just would not believe it. But Danny told me a story in April that I thought was phenomenal. And it was, he sat next to a Mormon on the plane. You want to take it from there?
Granddad loves going on airplanes because he gets to sit next to somebody who has to sit next to him for all that time until they land. And he always engages them and talks with them. And I guarantee you, every single one of those people, before the end of the conversation, he's asked if they know Christ as their Lord and Savior. He's just that kind of guy. But when he's talking to them, you know, after Pinehaven came along, oh, here's what we're doing in Montana, and we're helping kids and all this. And almost everybody by the end of one of those trips is either on our mailing list or going to come visit. Or this guy worked with one of the companies that owned a whole bunch of companies. And yes, he was a Mormon gentleman. I'm trying to remember what the company was, but it owned like Remington and Federal and a bunch of those big companies. And by the end of it, the guy sent a check with him for, I don't remember how much, but it was substantial. Just God, he was an amazing person. He and Grandma were born in 1929, and they grew up during the Depression, and the ranch wouldn't be there today if it wasn't for God choosing Bob Larsson to do that, because Granddad could rub a couple pennies together and come up with a dime. You know, he's that kind of a person. And just such a blessing. And even these pictures were taken when they were 87, so 3 years ago. Even at 87, he was a hard guy to slow down. He was taking the Christmas pictures that year. He did an advantage, yes. This is my family. They're here with me tonight, more or less. I guess they were making some noise. They got taken out. My wife is a saint. We drive to Florida and back from Montana. My record is 28 churches in a trip that took us 2 months to drive down and back, with little kids in the back seat and all that. Right at the moment, she's 7+ months pregnant, and we're still going to be on the road for almost another month. So we're going to be cutting a little close there. But she's just an amazing person. Montana only has 6 girls in the entire state. And so I didn't find any suitable brides, you know, they were all too hairy. And that wasn't a joke. Anyway, okay, so that's not true. But I met my wife at a missionary convention in Cincinnati, Ohio. She's from southern Indiana, just across the river from Louisville, Kentucky. You know, it's a 40-minute drive, so it's probably only 30 miles or so. But to be quite honest, being as she lived that close to Kentucky, I was just a little bit worried that she wouldn't wear shoes or have all her teeth. I didn't get enough laughs there to feel safe. How many of you are from Kentucky?
I'm from Indiana.
Okay, okay. So you're okay. Good. Where in Indiana?
Indianapolis, but I
Okay.
grew up in Terre Haute.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
why I know about Hudsonville.
Sure.
My uncle and my grandfather used to preach in a little church in Hudsonville.
Okay.
They were circuit preachers.
I'll bet your granddad knew him.
Probably.
I will bet you. Yeah, because Hudsonville's so large.
Yeah, my great uncle and aunt lived there, right by the railroad track.
Okay.
I remember one night I was visiting with them and for a week, and we had a terrible rainstorm, and the railroad track bells started ringing and rang all night. I got so homesick.
There's no place like home.
A place like Hudsonville.
I'm starting to get homesick for Montana. I've only been away for 3 or 4 weeks. This gentleman is John, and this is his wife Lisa. They were house parents with us for quite a while, and they are so good at, like John is an amazing leader, just great at that. Lisa has taken over our office there at the ranch, and she keeps everything very organized, and if you call out to the ranch on our main numbers, you'll talk to Lisa. Any of the parents who are looking at placing their kids at Pinehaven, they will talk to Lisa, and she'll work them through that. John is my assistant director at Pinehaven now, and he's the guy right here, and he is just, while I'm on the road, he keeps everything running and greased and working smoothly. Amazing at stepping into a situation when you have a child that's upset and the house parent's frustrated and helping them get stuff figured out. He's just really, really good at that. Yes. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. As far as I'm concerned, this is our theme verse at Pinehaven. And not only at Pinehaven, but in your church and in your lives as Christians. Because until people learn to serve the Lord, they're going to hell. That's just put it out there the way it is. And so one of the sermons that I preach, I tell people it's the second most simple sermon in the Bible. It's about this because really we can either choose the world or the Lord. It is that simple. And that's what we have to show these kids at Pinehaven. And so that's why, we can rebuild the family, we can teach them to work, we can help them with school, we can teach them skills, we can work their behavior, but until they give their lives to Christ, nothing changes for eternity. And Jesus is the only one who can do that. And so we surround them with Christ in their homes as they're living there in a Christian home atmosphere. And we don't want that to be like a dormitory. It is fairly large, but each of our houses on one side will have a boys' wing, and on the other a girls' wing, 3 rooms, 2 children to a room. And we try to have it just as much of a family-type atmosphere as possible. They eat 3 meals a day around the table, unless they're cooking for our work groups or they're in the summer for one of those 7 weeks or so. But we just want it to be like, normal, large family atmosphere where they can see Christ in how people interact and what that's supposed to look like. Anytime we're having church, the doors are open, or anytime the doors are open, the kids are in church and they are active. One of the things that so many churches have lost is getting the young people active in what's going on to where they feel like a part of it. And we try to have them be active, whether it's working with communion or just in Sunday school class, but to be a part of the whole, not just an outlier. Part of our training at Pinehaven comes in the school. As they're working through their other subjects like math and science and everything else, they also complete a course in the Bible. We are a private Christian school, and so we use a homeschool curriculum called Alpha Omega, and that way each of the kids is able to test and see where they test in the different subjects, and then they can get caught up by working at their own pace. And so a teacher will facilitate numerous different grades and ages in their own classroom. Now what you're seeing here, and I'll go ahead and play that again, this is in our chapel, and our kids have chapel 3 days a week. This is actually men's retreat last year, so Rick is in here somewhere, I'm not sure exactly where, but this is the chapel where they'll be 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that last half hour before lunch, because again, we want everything to point towards Christ. And that's why it's so important that we're a ministry outreach of the First Christian Church of St. Ignatius, is to keep that as the very center of what we do and not get caught up in everything else. this is kind of what our classrooms look like, a few different ages and grades, and so our teachers can't just come and teach math or English or something like that. And most of the applications that we get for teachers are usually elementary ed trained, and that's great. And we hired a young lady at the beginning of this school year to help us in our school to make sure we could take as many kids in the houses as we could. But ultimately, I do need to find somebody who can teach upper level math and science. But that person will also need to be able to teach English and social sciences and all of the others. But, you know, as long as the kids are working in these booklets, it's not all that difficult to do that. I've even done some subbing, so it obviously must be pretty easy. And I was public school. Yes, we do have electricity and internet. Did you know, I don't know if it's still true, but at one time, computer class was considered a foreign language credit in Montana. At one time, so there you go. They also get all their other electives, shop class, and some of those. One of the things we've been doing here recently in our shop class is, have any of you seen the Forged in Fire show on TV where they're a knife making competition and then they weed out people until one? You know, I don't know that our kids have seen very much of that, but that has taken our nation. A ton of people just love that show, and so we've built some forges and put in some anvils, and the kids they just love getting to do that in shop class. And one more thing that they can learn, and it's good for their self-esteem as well. I can produce something, not just a consumer, but also a producer. Every year we graduate a different number of students. This was a couple of years ago. Don't you wish every graduation, wedding, and funeral was this fast? For sure. This was a couple of years ago, and however many students we graduate just kind of depends on whatever the age group is that we have at the time. So we had 5 that year, and the next year we had 3. This is a young man from Alberta, Canada that I mentioned to you, who is graduating with us as well.
Actually, did he leave the assembly committee?
Got ahead of me about 5 seconds. Yes, so when they graduate, it's time for them to move on. That not only is graduating from our program, but on to whatever is next. Sometimes the kids will go home before they graduate, and we don't ever take custody of them. So if their parents ever say, okay, I want them home, then, you know, that's their privilege as their parents or whoever has custody. Pray for a young lady that will be leaving tomorrow. We got a call, I think yesterday, said, okay, I'm going to take her home, we're going to do something else with her. And just that fast, they're going to take her home. Probably needs to stay another 6 months, but, you know, we don't take custody. And one of the things we've seen is the revolving door on how fast the kids come and go has changed a lot. Parents don't leave their kids with us as long as they used to. And, you know, we had a boy for 13 years at one time, so it kind of depends on the home situation. But, you know, we need at least a year and a half, sometimes 2.5, to get the kids to that point where the change will stick. And so the longer the parents can leave them, usually the better they'll do.
Dan, if they leave, do you take them back ever?
We have, and that, by then, usually the damage has been done and the kids have learned that they don't have to change. Something will change before they have to change. And so that's almost always, a couple times it's been okay, but almost always a mess. So. But at this point, they've got their high school diploma that's accepted in, I believe, all but the Air Force as far as the military branches. I have never heard of a college turning them down because they had a homeschool type diploma. They're more concerned about the ACT and the SAT scores. And if we can, you know, there's not a lot that we can do once they graduate, because then they're usually going to wherever home is to get a job or go to college or that sort of thing. But if they want to stay and we can trust them, we will keep some of them as interns throughout the summer and then pay them a wage and have a lot more freedom. And it is a good stepping stone from the secure environment of Pinehaven to more freedom to home. One of the things that we're working on right now is what we're calling the gap ministry. And we haven't got this off the ground yet, but we truly believe the Lord is. We've been trying to figure out what do we do with these houses that and facilities that aren't as full as we would like them to be. And we're trying to set up a 16-week course where the kids can learn welding, auto mechanicking, basic home repair, cooking for large groups, meat cutting, emergency response. We want to take them on a short mission trip. We want to take them on a backpacking trip. Hopefully our dorm parents for those kids will be able to help them through like setting up a checkbook and keeping some financial responsibility that way. But a 16-week course where they'll live with a set of dorm parents and kind of like a semester of college essentially is what we're trying to do. We don't want it to be a financial burden on Pinehaven, so we've tried to see what the bare bones tuition for something like that would be. And we think we can do it for about $6,000 a student. And we don't just want it to be for our students there at Pinehaven, although that is a part of what we're thinking. How do we help them to transition? But maybe there's somebody here that's living in mom's basement or something like that, and they're between graduation and 20 years old, and they don't know what they want to do in life, and so they need to dip their toes in a few different pools and say, okay, I really liked this. And so, does that sound like a good idea to you guys, something that's needed? Something to help kids transition from being children into adults is our goal for that, so it still falls under our ministry of helping kids that we're trying to do there. And I tell you what, the kids love this kind of thing. If you can get them to the point where they can be trusted and have that responsibility, they absolutely love it. So anything, we can work them up to the point of being able to trust them, whether it's driving a tractor or some other stuff, it's a good thing to do with them. A young man, a couple weeks before I started on this trip, he had seen some of the forged and fire things, and so on a Saturday I went up, and his house dad was there and a couple other guys, and we took a leaf spring off a car and put it in the forge, and we hammered out a couple of knives. And they don't get to keep those all the time; those are under wraps most of the time. But I would not doubt at all that he doesn't become sort of a blacksmith or bladesmith later in life as a full-time thing, because he just absolutely loves it. And you know what better things are there for kids to do than to do something productive with their hands? Yeah. This is a local church camp, and it's another something they can earn is to go and catch big fish, but also have an opportunity to enjoy just focusing on Christ. It's a fun atmosphere, but there's also a lot of very intense training and teaching there at the church camp about what the Bible is. They look at the different books. I know I'm showing all the fun stuff, but they study the different books. A lot of times we have Bible college professors come and teach for us. Doesn't that look like fun? We have to wait until the middle of July so the water gets up to 70 degrees. Yeah. But they absolutely love to be at church camp and get to do that. Here I talk about all the training and all I show her. One of the things we try to do with all the hard work that we do with the kids, we try to balance that with some fun and some play. And so anytime we can, we try to schedule something to break up the routine just a little bit. I say anytime we can, every so often. And one of the times we try to do that is usually in August or September. We try to take the kids on a mountaintop experience and backpack into the woods of Montana somewhere. And as dry as we normally are at that time of year, it's kind of hit and miss as